The ancient pattern. Deep within the crystal archives of the Luminari, Damien and Nova pored over ancient texts that glowed with their own inner light. Their discovery in the garden had led them to search for answers in the historical records of Nova's people. "Look at this," Nova said, her silver fingers tracing illuminated symbols. "Before the last invasion, our world was connected to a vast network of energy channels. The invaders didn't just attack our people, they severed these connections." Damien leaned closer, his presence making the ancient crystals pulse brighter. "These patterns, they're almost identical to what we saw in the garden. Your ancestors found a way to link their energy with the planet itself. And now our resonance is somehow reactivating these dormant pathways," Nova mused, her energy tendrils swirling with excitement. "But why us? Why now?" Before Damien could respond, the archive room trembled. Through the crystal walls, they could see waves of erratic energy rippling across the landscape. The usually harmonious lights of Nixra's ecosystem flashed in discordant patterns. "Something's wrong," Nova breathed, her form tensing. "The energy network, it's destabilizing." They rushed outside to find chaos. The transformed crystal gardens had spread their influence further than anyone had anticipated, triggering a cascade effect through the planet's energy grid. Elder Vaeris and other Luminari were attempting to contain the surging power, but their efforts seemed futile. "The old wounds are reopening," Vaeris shouted over the growing disturbance. "The network cannot handle the sudden reactivation. If we cannot stabilize it, the damage could be catastrophic." Damien's scientific mind raced with possibilities as he watched Nova join her people's efforts. The silver beings formed a circle, channeling their energy in a desperate attempt to calm the turbulence. But something was missing, their power alone wasn't enough. "Nova," he called out, running to her despite the dangerous energy discharges around them. "The resonance between us, it's not just about connection. It's about balance." Understanding dawned in her luminescent eyes. "Of course, my people's energy alone is too intense. We need your human frequency to stabilize the pattern." "Impossible." Elder Vaeris protested. "No outsider has ever joined the circle of harmony." But Nova was already pulling Damien into the formation, their hands clasped tightly. "The old ways brought us to this crisis," she declared. "Perhaps it's time for a new pattern." The moment Damien entered the circle, everything changed. His unique energy signature, so different from the Luminaries, created a counterpoint to their resonance. Like a complex musical chord finding its missing note, the discordant energies began to align. "Focus with me," Nova guided him, their combined power flowing outward. "Feel the pattern, shape it, guide it." Through their connection, Damien could sense the vast network of energy channels spanning the planet. He saw the ancient damage, the blocked pathways, the places where harmony had been shattered. But he also saw the potential for healing. Together, they wove their energies into a new pattern, neither purely human nor purely Luminari, but something unprecedented. The transformed crystal gardens responded, their light spreading along the old channels like liquid starlight, mending and strengthening as it went. "It's working," Elder Vaeris whispered in awe. "The network is stabilizing, but this integration of energies is exactly what your world has been waiting for," Damien finished, holding Nova closer as their power continued to flow. "Your ancestors didn't just build an energy network, they created a living system meant to evolve and adapt." Nova's silver skin shimmered with understanding. And the prophecy, it wasn't about two worlds joining in harmony. It was about finding the missing frequency that could complete the pattern. As the crisis subsided, the landscape of Nixra had subtly changed. The bioluminescent life forms pulsed with new vigor, their lights now carrying hints of Earth-like warmth among the alien hues. The crystal gardens had spread their influence, creating patches of hybrid growth that bridged the gap between worlds. "This is just the beginning," Damien said softly, still holding Nova as they watched their combined work reshape the world around them. Think of what we could learn from this fusion of our sciences and your energy mastery. Nova's energy tendrils curled around him affectionately. Always the researcher, she teased, but her eyes held deep emotion. Though I must admit, some experiments yield unexpected results. Like falling in love with a silver-skinned energy being, he smiled. Like discovering that love itself can reshape reality, she corrected, drawing him into a kiss that made the newly stabilized energy network sparkle with joy. Elder Varys cleared his throat, though even his ancient features showed signs of acceptance. The Council will need to document these changes. And, discuss the implications of this new pattern you've created. Of course, Nova agreed, her tone professional though her energy signature still danced with happiness. But first, I believe Damien and I should survey the extent of the transformation. For scientific purposes, naturally. Naturally, Damien echoed, trying to keep a straight face as they departed. As they walked through the transformed landscape, their linked energies creating beautiful patterns in their wake, both knew that they had discovered something far greater than either had sought. In their attempt to heal an ancient wound, they had forged a path toward a future neither of their peoples had imagined possible. Yet even as they celebrated their success, a new tension lingered in the air. For with great transformation comes great responsibility, and not everyone would welcome such profound change. The crash on Xylos, Jax's awakening. Jax cursed, his breath catching in his throat as the Altan 7 Stardust Drifter shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared, turning the cramped cockpit into a cacophony of flashing red lights and urgent alarms. What in the void, he muttered, his fingers dancing across the control panel in a desperate attempt to regain control. The ship, a battered but reliable vessel that had served him well for years, was failing him now. He'd been charting a new nebula cluster on the fringes of explored space when the anomaly hit, a surge of energy that fried his navigation systems and sent him hurtling toward the gravity well of the nearest planet, Xylos. Primary thrusters offline. Atmospheric entry imminent, the ship's monotone AI, nicknamed Cricket, announced with unnerving calm. Jax hated Cricket's unflappability in moments like these. Brace for impact, Prospector Jax. Xylos. He'd barely registered the name in the star charts. A Class M planet, primarily jungle, with supposedly no sentient life and minimal exploitable resources. Perfect for avoiding attention, but less than ideal for surviving a crash landing. He wrestled with the emergency controls, his muscles straining against the failing gravity dampeners. Through the viewport, the planet loomed closer, a swirling canvas of emerald green and sapphire blue, punctuated by the fiery orange of approaching atmospheric entry. He spotted a break in the dense jungle canopy, a narrow ravine that might offer a sliver of hope. Cricket, give me everything you've got, Jax growled, pulling the yoke hard to starboard. The ship groaned in protest as it plunged into the atmosphere. The heat intensified, bathing the cockpit in a searing glow. Alarms screamed, and the smell of burning circuits filled the air. The Stardust Drifter was falling apart around him. He braced himself, closing his eyes as the ship slammed into the ground with bone-jarring force. Metal shrieked against rock, and the world turned into a blur of chaos. Then, silence. Jax slowly opened his eyes, his head throbbing. The cockpit was a wreck, wires sparking, and consoles shattered. But he was alive. Miraculously, he was alive. He unbuckled his harness and stumbled out of the pilot's seat, navigating through the debris-strewn cabin. The emergency lights flickered erratically, casting long, distorted shadows. He reached for his survival pack, a heavy bag containing essentials, a plasma pistol, a medkit, nutrient paste, a portable communicator, and a small scanner. Cricket, status report, he rasped, his voice hoarse. Life support systems nominal. External environment, breathable atmosphere, high humidity, unknown biological signatures detected. I advise caution, Prospector Jax. Thanks, Cricket. Always a ray of sunshine. He activated his enviro suit, sealing himself off from the unknown atmosphere outside. With a deep breath, he triggered the emergency release and the cockpit door hissed open. The air that rushed in was thick and humid, carrying the scent of exotic flora, a strange mix of sweet perfume and earthy decay. He stepped out of the wreckage and into the jungle of xylos. The scene was breathtaking. Towering trees with bioluminescent leaves cast an ethereal glow, illuminating the undergrowth in a soft, pulsating light. Strange, orchid-like plants clung to the trees, their petals shimmering with iridescent colors. The air hummed with the sound of unseen insects and the calls of exotic birds. It was beautiful, but Jax knew better than to be lulled into a false sense of security. Untamed planets were rarely welcoming. He activated his scanner, its display lighting up with a flurry of readings. "Okay, Cricket, let's see what we're dealing with," he murmured. The scanner identified a range of organic compounds, most of them unknown. It also detected a localized energy signature emanating from the surrounding vegetation. The readings were unusual. As he ventured deeper into the jungle, he noticed that the plants seemed to react to his presence. The bioluminescent leaves pulsed brighter, and the vines that snaked across the ground seemed to recoil from his boots. He was not alone. Suddenly, a rustling in the undergrowth caught his attention. He raised his plasma pistol, his heart pounding in his chest. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice amplified by his envirosuit. Silence. He scanned the area, his finger tightening on the trigger. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was humanoid, but unlike anything he had ever seen before. Tall and slender, with skin the color of jade green. Her features were delicate, almost feline, with large, almond-shaped eyes that glowed with an inner light. She wore a simple tunic made of woven leaves and vines, and her long, black hair was adorned with feathers and strange, crystalline beads. She carried a spear made of polished wood, tipped with a sharp, obsidian blade. Her expression was wary, but not hostile. "Greetings, Sky Dweller," she said, her voice melodic and surprisingly clear. "You have trespassed upon the lands of the Aela." Jax lowered his pistol slightly. "I am Jax," he replied. "My ship malfunctioned, and I was forced to crash land here. I mean you no harm." The woman, Aela, he assumed, studied him with her glowing eyes. "Your vessel has scarred the earth. Why have you come to Xylos?" "I didn't choose to come here," Jax explained. "I was charting a nebula when my systems failed. I need to repair my ship and get off this planet." Aela remained silent for a moment, her gaze fixed on the wreckage of the Stardust Drifter. Then, she spoke. "This world is sacred to my people. Your technology, it is dangerous. You must leave." "I intend to," Jack said. "But I need resources. I need to scavenge parts from my ship, and I might need to find other materials on this planet." Aela's eyes narrowed. "You will not desecrate our land. Xylos provides for those who respect it. But it punishes those who seek to exploit it." Before Jax could respond, a piercing shriek echoed through the jungle. The ground trembled, and the trees swayed violently. Aela's expression turned grim. "The Krillian," she whispered. "It hunts." Jax had never heard of a Krillian, but the fear in Aela's voice was unmistakable. He raised his pistol again, scanning the surrounding vegetation. Suddenly, a massive creature burst from the undergrowth. It was reptilian, with thick, armored scales and razor-sharp claws. Its jaws were lined with rows of jagged teeth, and its eyes glowed with predatory hunger. The Krillian roared, its breath reeking of decay. It charged toward them, its massive body crashing through the trees like a living battering ram. Aela reacted instantly, leaping forward with incredible agility. She hurled her spear at the Krillian, striking it in the flank. The creature roared in pain, momentarily distracted. Jax fired his plasma pistol, sending a bolt of energy toward the Krillian's head. The blast struck the creature, searing its scales and causing it to stumble. But the Krillian was far from defeated. It turned its attention to Jax, its eyes burning with rage. It lunged at him, its claws outstretched. Jax barely had time to react. He dodged the attack, narrowly avoiding the Krillian's deadly claws. He fired his pistol again, but the creature was too fast. It swatted the weapon out of his hand, sending it flying into the undergrowth. He was defenseless. The Krillian advanced on him, its jaws opening wide, ready to devour him. Jax braced himself for the inevitable. But then, Ayala intervened. She darted in front of Jax, drawing a long, curved blade from her belt. She slashed at the Krillian, striking it in the face. The creature recoiled, momentarily stunned. Ayala seized the opportunity, leaping onto its back and plunging her blade into its neck. The Krillian thrashed wildly, trying to dislodge her. But Ayala held on tight, driving the blade deeper. Finally, with a deafening roar, the Krillian collapsed to the ground, its body twitching. Ayala stood over the fallen creature, panting. She pulled her blade free and wiped it clean on a leaf. Jax stared at her in amazement. She had saved his life. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "You saved me." Ayala nodded curtly. "The Krillian is a dangerous predator. It is best to avoid them." "Easier said than done," Jax replied, retrieving his plasma pistol from the undergrowth. "I'm not exactly familiar with the local wildlife." "You are fortunate to be alive," Ayala said. "The Krillian is not easily defeated." "I owe you my life," Jax repeated. "Is there anything I can do to repay you?" Ayala considered his words. "There is one thing," she said finally. "Come with me. I will take you to my village. There, we will decide what to do with you." Jax hesitated. He didn't know what to expect from Ayala's people. But he knew that he couldn't survive on Xylos alone. "All right," he said. "I'll go with you." Ayala nodded. "Follow me," she said, turning and disappearing into the jungle. Jax followed, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. He had no idea what awaited him in Ayala's village. But he knew that his life on Xylos was about to become a lot more complicated. And perhaps, a lot more interesting. Resonating hearts. The sacred gardens of the Luminari pulsed with soft light as Damien knelt beside a cluster of crystal flowers, carefully documenting their response to different energy frequencies. Nova watched from nearby, her silver skin shimmering in the bioluminescent glow as she manipulated the natural energies around them. "Your fascination with our simplest life forms is endearing," she observed, a musical lilt in her voice. "Most outsiders seek our more powerful specimens." Damien looked up from his readings, caught off guard by how the ambient light played across her features. "Simple doesn't mean less valuable. These crystal blooms, they respond to emotional energies in ways I've never seen. The applications for healing alone could be revolutionary." Nova's energy tendrils swirled with interest as she moved closer. "Healing? You think our flora could help your people?" "With proper study and respect for their nature, yes." He reached out to adjust one of the crystal petals, and Nova's hand brushed his as she moved to assist. The contact sent a surge of energy between them that made the entire garden flare with brilliant light. Nova pulled back, her eyes wide. That shouldn't be possible. Our energies shouldn't resonate so strongly." "And yet they do," Damien said softly, still feeling the lingering echo of their connection. "Ever since that first trial, it's been getting stronger, hasn't it?" Before she could respond, Elder Vaeris appeared at the garden's entrance, his ancient silver form radiating disapproval. "Nova, the council requests your presence." "Alone." Nova's expression hardened, but she complied, leaving Damien with a lingering look that carried more meaning than words could convey. As she disappeared with the elder, the crystal flowers around Damien dimmed noticeably. In the council chamber, Nova faced the assembled elders, their combined energy filling the space with tension. Your growing attachment to the human concerns us, Elder Vaeris declared. The resonance between you is unprecedented and dangerous. His intentions are pure, Nova countered. You've seen this yourself in the trials. Our worlds could benefit from this connection. We have seen the destruction of trust before, another elder warned. The last invasion began with promises of cooperation. We cannot risk dash. A sudden surge of energy interrupted them as Damien burst into the chamber, his normally calm demeanor replaced with urgent intensity. You need to see this, he said, holding up his research tablet. The crystal gardens, they're evolving. Despite the elder's protests, Nova followed him back to the gardens. The sight that greeted them was extraordinary. The crystal flowers had grown and transformed, creating complex patterns that mimicked the energy signature of their combined resonance. This is what I was trying to tell you, Damien explained, excitement clear in his voice. Our connection isn't just affecting us, it's influencing the entire ecosystem. The plants are adapting, growing stronger. It's like they're trying to bridge our two species. Nova's energy tendrils danced with wonder as she studied the transformed garden. The ancient texts speak of a time when our world was in perfect harmony, before the devastation of the last invasion. Could this be a way to restore what was lost? Damien finished. Their eyes met, and the garden erupted in waves of iridescent light that spread outward through the entire compound. Elder Vaeris and the council arrived to witness the display, their skepticism warring with undeniable evidence before them. The prophecy of convergence, one whispered. When two worlds would join in harmony to heal the scars of the past. This changes nothing, Vaeris insisted, though his conviction seemed to waver. The risks dash. Are worth taking, Nova interrupted, moving to stand beside Damien. We've hidden ourselves away, protecting what remains of our world. But what if we could do more? What if this connection is exactly what both our peoples need? The crystal gardens continued to pulse with their combined energy signature, creating patterns of light that seemed to dance between them like visible manifestations of their growing bond. Damien reached for Nova's hand, and this time she didn't pull away. I came here seeking knowledge, he said, addressing the council. Instead, I found something far more valuable, a chance for genuine understanding between our peoples. Let us prove that this resonance isn't something to fear, but to embrace. As if in response to his words, the transformed crystal flowers released spores of light that floated upward like stars, creating a breathtaking display that even the most hardened elder couldn't ignore. Nova's energy tendrils intertwined with the lights, her silver skin taking on a warm glow that reflected her inner joy. The garden has made its choice, she declared. Will you deny the wisdom of our own world? The council exchanged looks, centuries of caution warring with the undeniable evidence before them. Finally, Elder Vaeris stepped forward, his ancient features softening slightly. You will be tested, he warned. Both of you. The path you propose is uncharted and not without danger. The best discoveries usually are, Damien replied, squeezing Nova's hand gently. The garden responded with another surge of harmonious light, as if nature itself was endorsing their united stand. As the council departed to deliberate, Nova turned to Damien, her luminescent eyes searching his. This connection between us, it terrifies them. Perhaps it should terrify us too. Damien reached up to trace the pattern of energy that framed her face, marveling at how natural it felt now. I prefer to think of it as beautiful, he said softly. Like you. The garden's light pulsed in response to their proximity, creating a private aurora around them. Nova's laugh was like chimes in a gentle breeze. You humans have such strange ways of expressing yourselves. Is it working? He asked with a smile. Instead of answering, she drew him closer, their energies merging in a display that made the transformed crystal flowers sing with resonant harmony. As their lips met, Damien realized that some discoveries transcended scientific documentation. Some had to be experienced to be truly understood. The path ahead would be challenging, but in that moment, surrounded by the living proof of their unique connection, both knew they had found something worth fighting for. Something that could bridge worlds and heal ancient wounds. Something impossible made possible through the simple power of trust, understanding, and love. Harmony's dawn. Dawn broke over Nixera in a symphony of light and energy. The transformed landscape glowed with the merged essence of two worlds, the ethereal silver blue of luminary power intertwined with the warm golden frequencies Damien had brought from Earth. In the center of it all, the crystal gardens had evolved into something entirely new, a living bridge between species. Nova stood at the garden's heart, her silver form rippling with anticipation as she monitored the energy flows. The integration is holding, she reported as Damien approached. Each new growth strengthens the pattern. And the feedback from your people, he asked, noting how the plants brightened at their proximity. Mixed, she admitted. Many see the beauty in this change, but others. Her energy tendrils twisted with concern. They fear we're losing our identity, becoming something neither luminary nor human. Or perhaps becoming something better than either alone, Damien suggested, reaching for her hand. Their touch sent harmonious ripples through the surrounding flora. Evolution isn't loss, it's growth. Their moment of peace shattered as alarms echoed through the compound. Elder Vaeris appeared, his ancient form crackling with urgency. The conservative faction has made their move. They're attempting to access the old purification protocols. No, Nova breathed. They wouldn't. They would, Vaeris confirmed grimly. They believe purging the human frequencies from our network will restore our pure state. Damien's scientific mind raced ahead to the implications. But the new pattern is too deeply integrated. A purge now would devastate our entire ecosystem, Nova finished. We have to stop them. They raced toward the ancient control center, a crystalline spire that pulsed with alarming intensity. Inside, a group of luminary elders had already begun the purification sequence. The air crackled with dangerous energy. Stand down. Nova commanded, her voice carrying harmonic overtones of authority. You'll destroy everything we've built. We're saving our world, one elder countered. This human corruption must be cleansed. Damien stepped forward, despite the hostile energies swirling around him. Your world doesn't need saving, it needs understanding. Look around you. The network isn't just surviving, it's thriving. The human speaks truth, Elder Vaeris added his voice. I too feared change, but what they've created together is no corruption. It's completion. The chamber's crystals began to resonate dangerously as the purification sequence progressed. Nova's eyes met Damien's with sudden clarity. The harmony point, she said. Like in the garden. Understanding flowed between them. Together, they moved to the chamber's center, their linked energies creating a counter-frequency to the purification wave. The air filled with competing patterns of light and power. Everyone out. Vaeris ordered, herding the other elders away. They must do this alone. As the chamber emptied, Damien and Nova stood in the eye of the energy storm. Like conducting a symphony, he said, drawing her closer. Then let's give them a song to remember, she replied, her silver skin luminous with power. They moved as one, their combined essence reaching out to touch the heart of Nixera's network. Through their connection, they could feel the planet's pulse, no longer purely alien, but a harmony of both their natures. The purification protocols fought against them, trying to isolate and eliminate the human frequencies. But their love had created something the protocols couldn't recognize, couldn't destroy. It wasn't human or luminary, but a perfect synthesis of both. As they poured this truth into the network, the very crystals around them began to sing. The purification wave faltered, then transformed. Instead of destroying the human elements, it began integrating them more deeply, spreading their shared resonance across the planet. The chamber filled with light so brilliant it could be seen from space. When it faded, Nixera had changed forever. The crystal gardens had spread worldwide, creating a new ecosystem that celebrated both their heritages. The network hummed with stable power, stronger than ever before. Nova opened her eyes to find Damien watching her with a mix of awe and adoration. "I think," she said with a musical laugh, "that we just rewrote your xenobotany textbooks." "Worth it," he smiled, pulling her into a kiss that sent sparkles of joy through the renewed network. "Though I may need help explaining this in my research papers." "Perhaps," Elder Varus suggested, returning with a look of wonder on his ancient face, "it's time we shared our knowledge more openly with your people. Under proper guidance, of course. A cultural exchange." Damien's eyes lit up with scientific excitement. Among other things, Nova teased, her energy tendrils curling around him possessively. "After all, someone needs to teach your people how to properly resonate." As they emerged from the chamber, they found Nyxera transformed in more ways than one. The barrier between their species had dissolved like morning mist, leaving behind a world where love and science, human and Luminari, had forged something entirely new. "What happens now?" one of the former conservative elders asked, watching the new growth spread across the landscape. "Now," Damien said, holding Nova close as the dawn painted their shared world in colors no one had seen before, "we grow together." The crystal gardens bloomed around them, their light pulsing with the combined heartbeat of two species who had found harmony in each other's differences. And in that light, they saw not an ending, but a beginning, the first rays of a dawn that would illuminate both their worlds. Nova's laugh chimed like stellar wind through crystal as she pulled Damien into another kiss, their energies merging in joyful celebration. Above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was applauding their unlikely love story, a tale of transformation, trust, and the extraordinary things that happen when two hearts dare to beat as one.